Within hours of warning Border Patrol not to violate a judge's order when it comes to ICE raids, the acting U.S. attorney in Sacramento was removed. She was fired. She was terminated by the Trump administration. Today we're going to look at what this says about the independence of the Justice Department. We're going to talk about what recourse she may have for being fired. This is a breaking issue. We just learned about this, even though it happened in July. It kept it under wraps for a little while. We're just finding out about this. We're going to talk about this as a couple of California lawyers. I'm Sean Kernican. That's Brian Kabatek, my sidekick over there. And we are two lawyers at a firm based in California, Kabatek LLP. This is civil action on the Legal AF network. And I think as California lawyers, we feel strongly about this issue. We feel strongly about lawyers in this state being protected and being independent of external forces like Donald Trump, especially when it comes to an independent department like the Justice Department. Brian, where do we start with this issue?
Well, I think a couple things we should start off with. First of all, you're not Brian Kabatek, and you should be grateful for that. Secondly, I'm not your sidekick, okay? And third, that even though we're located in California, we've handled cases all across the country. I've spent over 35 years handling cases all across the country, all different types of cases. So let me just start with explaining the distinction between an acting U.S. attorney and a U.S. attorney. A U.S. attorney is appointed by the President of the United States and serves at the pleasure of the President of the United States. And whether we like it or not, it's routine that presidents can remove U.S. attorneys. Now, before the Trump administration, it doesn't happen very often. Usually, they're very experienced prosecutors. It's a very significant position. It's referred to oftentimes as the highest ranking law enforcement officer in the specific district. And an acting U.S. attorney is simply someone who's in the job because there is no current U.S. attorney in that position, whether it's an interim appointee U.S. attorney or an actual appointee that's been approved by Congress, by Senate. So what we're talking about today is a woman named Michelle Beckwith. I do not know her. I do not have any experience with her. I've looked up her background. She's been with the U.S. Attorney's Office for 15 years. She graduated from Ohio State. She clerked for both a federal district court judge and the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeal. That's a very big deal. Those are very sought after positions. Only a handful of law students every year will get those jobs after they graduate law school. And she's been a prosecutor where she's handled a number of important cases in the Eastern District, which is sort of the Sacramento, Northern California, Sacramento area, central part of California. There's millions of people that live in this district. So that's kind of her background to start with. So she committed a deadly, deadly sin here, Sean, that led to her firing. Why don't you discuss it?
Yeah. So the sin Brian's referencing in sarcasm is simply asking the head of Border Patrol that's operating within that district to not violate a judge's order. There was a judge that had issued an order prohibiting indiscriminate stops without or detentions or these hunts that the ICE folks and Border Patrol were going on without reasonable suspicion or probable cause. She just reminded them that they need to adhere to that court order. That's the sin that she committed. That's all she did. Reminded them. She didn't get in anyone's way. She has no power to issue any types of order herself. She didn't prevent anyone from doing anything. All she did was speak up and say, hey, just a reminder, this court has issued this order. Look, part of it is because she's literally doing her job. She's the top law enforcement, as you said, in that district. She's the top law enforcement officer, and she's reminding the Border Patrol that they need to simply follow the law. Because look, if some deportation or some type of prosecution ends up on her desk, if it's done in violation of a court order, she won't be able to prosecute it. I mean, she's not even, trying to act as someone safeguarding a sanctuary city. She just wants to be able to do her job.
Let me go through exactly what happened here, because I think the timeline's very important. So first of all, the character we're dealing with here is a fellow by the name of Gregory Bovino, who is one letter short of bovine. I thought that was funny. And he is the Trump guy in charge of the Border Patrol activities in sort of the California area. I don't think it's exclusively California. So on July 14th, she receives a call from him saying, hey, I want to let you know, Miss Acting U.S. Attorney, that we're about to engage in a immigration raid in Sacramento, which is inside your district. So he's letting her know. And she decides the next day, so July 15th, she emails him and she just reminds him that there is a court order in effect, which specifically the federal judge said you can't make arrests without probable cause. And, basically here's the order. At 4:31 p.m., she receives a termination office, a notice from DC saying that you're being filed for insubordination. That's it.
Yeah. On her personal email account, because her cell and her work computer, they all went dark and she had to check.
I mean, it's amazing to me that this Trump federal government, which takes forever to do anything decent, is able within a couple of hours to turn off her phone, turn off her account, get her out of the office, and fire her.
Yeah. I mean, by the way, the person from whom it came was someone named Sarab Sharma. Who's like a special assistant to Trump, who's another one of these sort of characters that's a podcaster or you know, self-proclaimed journalist and, you know, probably a MAGA supporter. I mean, all of it is just rife with like these ridiculous things. None of it is surprising. All of it fits into the Trump mold and the irony here.
Here's the little issue, Sean, that the Trump administration's got, which they truly don't believe the rules apply to them. But we've previously covered Maureen Comey, I think that's her first name, who's the James Comey's daughter, who was a pretty well-respected prosecutor who got fired from her job and has now appealed and filed a lawsuit. And this lady, Miss Beckwith, is going exactly the same direction. Because you can't fire a rank and file civil service employee. She's not the U.S. attorney. You simply can't fire her. But, you know, I want to do a little deeper dive into her background because I think this highlights, and what I'm about to say, I think highlights what the real problem is here. They're getting rid of the decent, hardworking people who have risen through the ranks. So what's she done in her career? Well, she's prosecuted individuals involved in domestic and international terrorism plots. She's prosecuted and had trials against human traffic operators in the Central Valley, which included long sentences and victim restitution. She's gone after violent gangs and organized crimes, which I thought Trump was all about getting rid of bad people off the streets, and narcotics and firearms trafficking. This is just a few examples of the things that Ms. Beckwith has done in her career as a prosecutor. So now, Sean, where is this going?
I mean, she may have claims for this wrongful termination, just like the lawsuit that was brought by Maureen Comey that we covered a couple of weeks ago here. She may have claims against them. As you said, I think the problem here is that she's just a hardworking American who cares about her country, career prosecutor. These are not glamorous jobs. These aren't high-paying jobs. These require a certain set of dedication and skill. This isn't something that somebody can just read a practice guide about. Not to say that the work we do, you know, we work very hard and we have specialized skills as civil litigators, representing injured people, and we do well at it. But you know, these prosecutorial jobs, U.S. attorney jobs, they're very specialized. You need a certain level of training, you need a certain background, and it's hard to get there. And you need younger people that are motivated to do this. And it's not glamorous, it's not high paying. And by doing this, here's my concern, and I just want to share my thought on this. Here's my concern. By doing things like this, people are going to be turned off from going down this path. They're not going to want those federal clerkships or the Court of Appeals clerkships that are sort of a requisite to being trained to become a prosecutor. And they're not going to want to become prosecutors. They're not going to want to serve their country in this capacity because they're going to see that it's now a politicized position. And if the commander-in-chief doesn't like you, he's going to fire you. So why spend all that time investing in that type of career where the whole purpose is to serve your country if you're just going to get terminated, you're going to get tossed if you say the wrong thing to some border patrol officer.
You know, Sean, I want to say a couple things about this as my final thoughts. First of all, these are not high-paying jobs. So no one goes into these jobs because they want to make a lot of money. This person, Ms. Beckwith, is somebody who probably should become a federal judge. You know, that's the kind of the path. There's a lot of times U.S. attorneys become federal district court judges. Very, you know, honored position to have. We have lawyers in our office, young lawyers in our office who've been practicing far less time than she's been practicing, who are making more money than she was undoubtedly making. And I just want to read, though, what Maureen Comey wrote to her colleagues, because I think it applies here. When she was fired, and I think it's apropos for this, she said, if a career prosecutor can be fired without reason, fear may seep into the decisions of those who remain. Fear is the tool of a tyrant. I think that says it all, and that's my final thought.
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't have said it better, Brian, than she said it. That's very true. This is very troubling. And we'll see how this shakes out. I certainly hope she pursues her claim, just like how Maureen Comey is doing, just like how so many people are doing, and they fight back, because that's the only recourse here. You got to fight back. There's civil remedies for this type of conduct, and the Trump administration and people behind this should be held accountable for eroding democracy and eroding the independence of the Department of Justice. But we'll keep up to date with this. This is an interesting story. It's a developing story. It's a big deal. I know Governor Newsom has chimed in on it, and so many are chiming in on it, and we'll probably see more of this happening. But we'll keep up with it. I'm Sean Kernican. That's Brian Kabatek. We're two lawyers at Kabatek LLP. This is Civil Action on the Legal AF Network. If you like this content, hit that subscribe button. We appreciate your support. Independent media like this, hopefully we're providing something informative. Hopefully we're providing you with some type of updates here, and we appreciate your feedback. You subscribing and keeping up to date with us is I think very helpful here, and we'll see you on the next one.
Can't get your fill of Legal AF? Me neither. That's why we formed the Legal AF Substack. Every time we mention something in a hot take, whether it's a court filing or a oral argument, come over to the Substack. You'll find the court filing and the oral argument there, including a daily roundup that I do called, wait for it, Morning AF. What else? All the other contributors from Legal AF are there as well. We got some new reporting. We got interviews. We got ad-free versions of the podcast and hot takes. Where? Legal AF on Substack. Come over now to free subscribe.